We'll start the recording, and I just want to welcome everyone to another dose of positivity. We have 3 more scheduled this month before we launch our certificate program. And I'm Margaret Greenberg. I'm an executive coach and the founder of the Greenberg Group, a consulting firm. And I'm also the co-author of this best-selling book, Profit from the Positive, with Senya Myman. And today our focus is going to be on positive outcomes of this pandemic. And it was actually a response to a poll that we did back we first started doing these was at the end of March. And we gave people a poll to identify areas that they wanted to cover. And this was one of them. So we decided to cover it today. With me is Mia Chernick. I'd like to introduce Mia is a learning and development professional for the world's largest hotel chain, where she's responsible for about 18,000 employees for their learning and development. She also has experience in operations. And I'm thrilled to have her as an associate of the Greenberg Group. So Mia, would you like to just get a few housekeeping details before we dive in?
Sure, thanks Margaret, and good afternoon, or good morning, or good evening to all. Thanks for coming back for Dose of Positivity. I think most of you have had a dose before, so we're happy to welcome you back. As you know, we like to use the chat box during these sessions here today. It looks like we've become familiar with it, so we will continue to use that today. And I did want to share that we'll be sending out the recording as well as the slides. So we do have a bunch of links in here, and no need to scribble them all down. We will send those out to you upon conclusion of our sessions this week. So Margaret, I will pass it back to you to get us started.
Okay, all right. Thank you, Mia. And as always, we like to start with just a centering exercise. So again, you're probably familiar with the notion of absent presence, physically present, in this case, virtually present, but mentally absent. So let's get ourselves present. And let's do that by simply, you can close your eyes if you like, and simply begin by focusing on your breath, breathing in and breathing out. Breathing in effortlessly and breathing out. And each breath, you become more centered, more focused. And let's just do the 4-7-8 breathing real quick, which is breathe in on 4, the count of 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold it for 7. And then slowly release on 8. And just do one more of those silently to yourself, and then we'll begin. Okay. So we said that the focus of today is going to be on positive outcomes of this pandemic. And yet we have up here, well, this sucks. Well, guess what? It does. This pandemic does suck. And we're not trying to sugarcoat anything. In fact, we know that positive psychology, which is what everything I do is grounded in, is not positive thinking. Positive thinking is just trying to put yourself in a positive state of mind and think good thoughts. Positive psychology is the science behind well-being. And what do we know that can actually help people cope with stress and not just survive this pandemic, but to thrive in the face of it? So we've experienced all sorts of things that really do suck, from losing loved ones, to economic loss, job loss, furloughs, social loss, not being able to connect with our friends and family and community. So there are a lot of things. So we'll be talking about the positive outcomes as well. But before we do, let's just take a look at what's happening for you. So we're going to do a quick poll. Mia's going to walk us through just a quick poll just to see how is COVID-19 impacting you.
Thanks, Margaret. So team, I am going to launch a poll on the screen and we'd appreciate your input. As Margaret said, how COVID-19 has impacted you specifically, and we'll ask you to choose one of these options. So you should see the poll popping up on your screen now. Also, please go ahead and take a moment to respond.
Just choose one and click submit. And this is an anonymous poll, so your name's not going to be attached to it or anything.
It is. Thanks for that piece, Margaret. Looks like we're waiting for one more response. We'll give you a couple more seconds. Okay. So thank you for your responses here. I'm going to go ahead and show you kind of how the group has responded as a whole. So as we can see, the majority of us, 60%, have said that my daily routine has changed, but I've escaped the worst of it. I think a lot of us that take on that viewpoint or approach, have a strength of being grateful, right? And looking at what we have versus what we don't have. But as you can see, we are all across the board, right? Some of us have had serious, loss as a result of the pandemic. And for some of us, it hasn't impacted our day to day. So thank you for your responses there. And we'd actually like to learn a little bit more from you. This really is an open forum for you to share today. So as you can see on the screen here, we're going to now move to the chat box. And tell us more. So how specifically, as comfortable as you are with sharing, has this pandemic impacted either you, your family, friends, the work that you do, or perhaps your community? So go ahead and type those in the chat box. We'll give you a couple moments. And while we do that, I'll share, from my specific experience, my day-to-day has changed, so I would be with the majority of you as well. For me, a direct impact of the pandemic is, being furloughed from my full-time job.
Yeah, and for me, probably the biggest change, I've always had my office in my home, but the biggest change is moving up to our little 2-room cabin up in Maine, which typically we only spend summers up here, and also having one of our daughters up here working side by side as well. So that's been a change, just sharing the kitchen table to be able to do work. I don't have an office up here. So that's been one of the changes that's impacted me. What do we see? So Steve, I know Steve, the biggest takeaway is that you lost your grandmother during this pandemic. And yeah, you shared that with me just the other day, yesterday, and it was agonizing for her. She was ill, but she died, in isolation because of the pandemic. Okay, very, very painful. What else do we have, Mia?
Jennifer shared that she's been working from home now, which sounds like it may be new for her. Her children are doing online learning, which I know is certainly new for most. She hasn't been able to spend time with her friends as she typically did, like dinners and walks, etc.
Okay.
Something I'll share, Jennifer, because I feel the same way with, being socially isolated, but I've actually been doing some Zoom dinners. So I know it's not always the same, but it does help to keep you connected technologically.
Yeah, we've done several Zoom happy hours, several Zoom coffee hours, a couple Zoom lunches. We haven't done dinner yet. Or game night. I've heard a lot of people have done game nights over Zoom. Let's see, Anthony here. A pandemic impacted myself by having to transition from an on-site college setting to an online setting. My family has also had to make an online transition from their school and work settings. Yeah, and Anthony, your graduation was virtual, correct? Yeah. Okay, something that we spend 4 years looking forward to, and then that doesn't happen. Okay, anybody else before we go on? Jennifer or Steve, the other Steve?
We have Jennifer's response here. Oh, the other Steve.
Oh, right, okay.
Here we go. The pandemic has altered the lives of the people that I know. I have families that work in the restaurants and it's been pretty hard for them. I also had to do remote learning from university. And Harmony shared that she's working remotely, anxious about her daughter's A level, I'm assuming, in school, which I completely understand, your anxiety around that.
Okay, so notice none of us have actually gotten ill ourselves, and most of us said that we've had little impact to some impact, but not as worst as it possibly could be. So just notice that, and keep in mind as you interact with family members and coworkers or other students and friends and family, everybody's at a different place. So just being sensitive to that, to know that, for some people, it's a really huge changes in their lives and impacts in their lives and losing loved ones. And then for others, it's not so much. So just be sensitive to that. We love memes. They make us smile. They start our day off sometimes on a hilarious note. And again, not to sugarcoat things, but there are some bright spots happening in the world. There are some things, some blessings or things to be grateful for. And these were 3 memes that just made us chuckle here. That me after I eat all of my quarantine snacks in one night, I just thought was adorable, that little baby. And so you can pick your favorite that you like. You'll get these slides. Feel free to share. So we also want to shine a light on some of the things that are going right, the positive outcomes that you've either experienced firsthand yourself or that you've noticed in reading the news or something that you heard about in your community or at your work location, your company. So go ahead in the chat box. What just one positive outcome you've seen or experienced firsthand? And while we wait for that, I'll just say, Mia, obviously you mentioned earlier about being furloughed. The bright spot, the silver lining, I guess, would be having an opportunity to work with you right now at this time in your life. And I'm helping you out and you're helping me out tremendously. So that, to me, has been something I'm just so very grateful for. So thank you.
Of course, I couldn't agree more. And for those of us, most of us are at home right now. It could be something, small, a change in routine that has added more joy, or benefit to your life. It looks like Jennifer shared spending more quality time with her boys, lots of board games being played. That's great. Anthony and his family. Anthony. Yeah, he repainted the house, putting you to work. That's awesome.
And cleaned the garage. I love it.
Can we fly you out to California?
One that my youngest daughter is a nurse at a hospital down in DC, so she is self-quarantined at this time. She's not seeing anyone when she's not working a shift, And, you know, the silver lining for her is she happened to get a puppy just a few months ago. And I, as a mother, I think to myself, my God, if she didn't have that dog to come home to and take out on walks, and I don't know what she would be doing. She'd be very, very lonely. So Steve, I know you have a dog over there, Ben.
Oh, look at him.
Yeah, there he is. Yeah. So he can be, again, a silver lining. What did Harmony say? Thanks to moving to working online using Zoom, I have come across online classrooms like yours, which make me feel going back to school again, which I really miss. Ah, Harmony.
Well,
That's really beautiful.
that is a great thing during a pandemic or not. So, but it's great to have right now. He's a wonderful guy to spend my day with. And I guess that is one thing, that if I was working full time and traveling as I would have otherwise been, it would have been an issue with Ben. He wouldn't be seeing me as much. We wouldn't be spending our days together like we are. It's very nice seeing him.
Yeah.
Very much.
Yeah, I love that. Harmony, you were going to say something too? Did you want to take yourself off mute?
Sorry. Yeah, I learned the small things like how to set the background as the TARDIS. Yeah, we use it in we just use this afternoon with a chat with my daughter's teacher. So I learned that from her. Yeah, excellent. I think I will learn how to remove it, maybe, hopefully.
Well, and Harmony, when it comes to going back to school, I'm living proof. I had one child in high school and one in college when I went back to get my graduate degree. So you're never too old to go back to school and learn, even when you're juggling work and family at the same time.
Yeah, I really like learning, but yeah, I'm happy with the whatever short times of learning I can have. So thanks a lot for your doses. I've attended a few of yours and they're great.
Thank you. Thank you so much. You just made my day. I'm grateful for you.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, I really.
And what do we have?
It looks like Steve shared appreciating the time that I have with my family and being able to connect with people through Zoom. And I think that's something all of us can realize, you know, being home, whether it's fur family or human family or whoever it is that you're surrounding yourself with. It's nice to share that time with people that you really may not have had otherwise in your other day-to-day routines. I'll also share, I got a puppy a week ago, and that wouldn't have happened if it weren't for, you know, being able to stay home and help get her settled. So, you know, for me, I look at a lot of positive outcomes that have come from the pandemic.
I gotta be honest, I'm having a really hard time finding anything positive. I mean, yeah, there are, but they're so minuscule compared to the bad outcomes. I mean, it's like saying like, oh, well, you know, he died in a fire, but he didn't have to buy any shaving cream that day, so that's good. Well, I mean, it's just ridiculous for me to see anything positive in this. It really is.
Well, you know, Steve, it's interesting because as human beings, we are hardwired to look for what's wrong. We are hardwired to focus in on the negative, and it really takes effort. People think it's easy to find the bright spots. People think it's just, they're in la la land. It's so easy. It actually takes discipline and practice to shine a light on what's going right because of our evolutionary background. Psychologists believe that for early humans to survive, we had to be on the lookout for danger. We had to be on the lookout for negativity. So it really is it's a mindset change that doesn't happen easily. And my biggest piece of advice for people that struggle with trying to find the good in anything, whether there's a pandemic or not, is to start by focusing in on just 3 things every day that you're most grateful for, and make that a habit, just like you have a habit of brushing your teeth, and start. And over time, you'll start to rewire your brain. Right now, our brains, think of it this way, our brains are like super highways, pathways in our brain to focus in on what's wrong. And then we have these little trails in the woods that are just little trails on focusing on what's right. And what we want to do is start making those little trails a little bit wider and turning them into streets and roads that focus more of our time and energy on what's right. And what that can do for us is it can also help us improve not only our own well-being, but the impact that we have in the world and the impact that we can have on other people. I have yet to meet a leader that someone wants to follow who only views what's wrong in this world. It's really hard to follow someone like that. So here are 6 other strategies that you can do. And this is based on the research from Hogan Assessments. They're a psychological company that I'm licensed in. And here's 6 things that you can do in addition to practicing gratitude, is to take care of yourself every day. Do something. It might be taking a walk now because people can't go to the gym. It might be choosing, a healthy, making a healthy choice in our food, what we choose to eat that day, but doing something for yourself every day is one thing that we found. The second is to maintain support networks. Many of you mentioned about connecting with family, connecting with friends over Zoom. The worst thing that we can do is just stay in social isolation. So social distancing doesn't mean that we have to be isolated. We can still connect with people by telephone, by Zoom, by writing a letter or sending an email or a text. So maintaining those support networks. When this is all over, what I like to tell people is people are going to remember how you behaved during this time. Did you go inward and become a hermit and just kind of stayed in your own little world? Or did you reach out to people and check in on them to see how they're doing? So maintain social support is really important. The third is to stay informed, but not overly informed. Being up here in Central Maine, we don't have a television. We get all of our news by reading it. People that leave their television on all day to a particular channel and just listen to the news constantly, that is shown to have a really detrimental effect on people's well-being as well as their sleep patterns. So stay informed about what's going on, but not overly informed. Don't become a news junkie. The fourth thing you can do is focus on what you can control. Right now, there are a lot of things that are way outside of anybody's control. But what do you control? So I'll give you an example. When I came up here on March 17th, I thought, what am I going to do from the backwoods of Maine? How can I help people at this time? And that's where I came up with the dose of positivity. And I delivered the first one 3 days later. So again, focusing on what you do have control over rather than what you don't. The fifth is find personal meaning. One of the greatest ways we can find meaning in our lives and our work is to do something for someone else. So if you're feeling low, you're feeling depressed, you're feeling stressed, go do something for someone else, and that can have a positive impact. And then lastly, just remember the golden rule. Do unto others as the way you want them to do unto you. And remember that as if you're seeking, a call from a friend, instead you make the call and just seek other people out. So those are the six items on what you can do to help manage your stress during this time. So let's wrap up with what's one small action you can take today, not tomorrow, not next week, but one small action you can take today to spread more cheer than fear. Maybe it's just picking up the phone and calling someone that may be far worse off than you. Might be texting someone, could be anything, getting outside for a walk. So go ahead, put that in the chat box. One small action that you'll commit to today. And Mia, while we wait for those to come in, why don't we go to clean the dishes after dinner? I love it, Anthony. That was my job last night. Let's go to the just a few administration things. So while we wait for things to come in, Hungry for More Positivity. Thursday's Dose of Positivity is going to be with Dr. Dana Arakawa, my thesis partner. She's out at the University of Hawaii. And it's going to be different content. I know usually we repeat the same content 2 different times in the week. This week, Dr. Dana is going to be with us talking about virtual teams and what she's learned. And also, we have 1 more this week, 2 next week, and then we're taking a hiatus because we start our Profit from the Positive Certificate program, starts June 2nd. So those of you that have had a few doses of positivity and want to get trained to deliver even more, all 31 tools in the book, either give us a call or check out this link when Mia sends it to you. And then, of course, how to stay in contact with us. Mia will send this out on Thursday, but you can stay connected. You don't have to write all this down on how to reach us and stay connected. So let's go back. What do we have in the chat box? I know we're at the end of the hour or half hour here. What do we have?
Jennifer's going to start regular morning walks.
Great.
Steve wants to learn or do something different.
Steve, if you can get a little bit more specific, we're twice as likely to do something, and that's why we always ask for one small action. You're twice as likely to do it than if we just have a vague statement that says, oh, I want to learn. He says, I have no idea. Okay, so the question would be what is something you have always said, I'm gonna learn how to do this if I just had the time? For some people, it's like, I've always wanted to play the guitar, or I've always wanted to learn Italian, or I've always wanted to learn X. What might that be for you? So give that some thought. And then what do we have? Harmony. I'll ask my daughter about technology instead of spending time Googling how to use. More interaction and more chance to learn from the family. Well, I hope you have better luck than I do, because when I've asked my daughters how to do something, their reply is, Mom, you can Google that, So good luck. Depends on how old they are, but good luck on that one. Okay, so we can stay, let's see, is it 3:30? Yeah, I could stay on for just a few more minutes if anybody has any other questions or comments.
Well, I've got an issue that I've been dealing with recently, and I'm not sure how to find anything positive in it.
So what's your question, Steve? Steve, what's your question?
I'm not sure how to handle this situation, or if I should just give up on it. My grandmother had a best friend who she grew up with, who's in a nursing home now and has dementia, and she is really the last of, she wasn't actually blood related to me, but she's the last family member I think of as being in that generation. Even though she wasn't a blood relative, because we always called her Aunt. Actually, her name is Margaret. Aunt Margaret is what we called her. I would really like to see her, and they're not letting me. And it's just really, really bothering me. And I think it's just the most nonsensical thing in the world, because they're not letting
Okay.
me see her because they think it's protecting her. But I'm going to tell you something. That wowoman is going to die in the next few months. Whatever you do, she's
Let's
96
see.
years
So
old.
let's ask. Right. So Steve, you said you didn't know what you could do. So let's use the group here. Jennifer, Steve, Harmony, Mia. What could Steve do? Because he can't physically see this Aunt Margaret. What could he do? Ideas for Steve?
Could you communicate with her by phone or anything else?
I've tried. That's really not going to work too well. Though she's really starting to enter the phase of dementia where she's not very well aware of her environment. And if you're there with her and kind of in her face and you can say, "Hi, Margaret, I'm here," you can kind of get her attention and you get her to focus for a little bit. But phone, video, it's just not working.
Okay, so that's not an option. What's another option? I have an idea, but any other options?
Jennifer did share, she shared the phone idea, FaceTime, but perhaps writing a letter or sending a picture. Not sure if that would, fall into the same bucket. I think a thought I might have, Steve, is perhaps like a drive-by a possibility, and that I don't know, right? But maybe it is.
That's actually
Yeah, the drive-by. The drive-by, I know a dear friend of mine whose grandmother is in, again, late stages, and she's done the drive-by and actually gone up to her window. And it was not creepy. It wasn't, that she called ahead of time to the assisted living place, told them, and it was really quite lovely. The other idea I had was my dad had Alzheimer's, so I lived through this. I know firsthand what it's like, and I used to read to him this same. I had done a book for him on for, I think it was his 85th birthday, like a family book of photos and whatnot. And I would go and I would read it to him. Now, you can't go and read anything to this person, but what you could do is, to Jennifer's point, write a letter and maybe talking about your grandmother, their mutual friends. When you have Alzheimer's or dementia, your short-term memory is terrible, but your long-term memory tends to be intact. They tend to remember things when they were teenagers or in their 20s or 30s. So writing a letter and then asking someone wherever she lives to read it to her. Is she in a facility, Steve? Is she in some kind of residency?
She is, yes, and that's why I can't see her, which is because the facility is online.
Right.
And I've expressed this thought to you before. I think it's just really wrong-headed. Right. I mean, these are people.
Right. Extraordinary time. Right. Right. All right. Other questions. Other questions that people have. So it sounds like the drive-by might work. Writing a letter and asking someone to read it to her and read it multiple times. Any other questions before we sign off? Anybody else?
I think.
All right. Well, I want to thank.
Oh, Margaret, I think Harmony, did you have something?
Yeah, I just mean that if someone is near her, maybe he can try to FaceTime when that person is near her. Like there's a nurse or someone who can connect by phone, and then you talk through the nurse to her.
Yeah, we could try that.
That would require just coordination, right?
Yeah,
to make that happen.
Yeah, I tried that because like my dad passed away when it was away, but my sister was with him, and he has moment that he was aware, and she waited until like she knew that he would understand, and she phoned me and show my face on the phone. And I think like 10 days before he passed away, he on that chat he could recognize me, like, so it. And she took a like screenshot of that one, and I really treasure that moment. And I think I thank my sister for that moment. So I think that's the best that I could do. Yeah.
Oh, that's
So
beautiful, Harmony.
yeah, so it like, but later he was not like aware, you know, and he passed away alone, and I had to fly home to the funeral. But thanks to that moment, I think if I didn't have that like that chat, it would have been much harder, I know. So please find a kind-hearted nurse who would be like my sister, who would like observe to know that when she's like awake, because there are moments when like they knew more than other moments, you know. So yeah, seek for these moments, I hope. Yeah.
And I know, having a daughter who is a nurse, they want to help. I mean, they're on the front lines, and they really do want to help people and help families at this extraordinary time. I mean, nurses are a very caring profession, and they have a deep desire to help. And sometimes all it requires is an ask on the part of the family to make it happen.
Yes.
So
They
with
can
that,
just ask,
thank
I
you,
think.
everyone. Yes. Yep. And don't be afraid to ask. So thank you, everyone. And remember, despite all the negativity, it's there, it's real. Look for, it takes discipline to look for some of the good things that are happening in this world. And for me today, it was connecting with all of you. So thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
We'll see you again.
All
Bye-bye.
right. Take care.